Let's look at Tim Walz now. In a different video, I talked about J.D. Vance's speaking style. And the thing I pointed out, which is fun to pick apart a little bit, is there was this Newsweek article in which they took a look at how ChatGPT would analyze the likely outcomes of the VP debates. Now, I'm not picking on Newsweek, and I'm not even really picking on ChatGPT. I'm pointing out the following. ChatGPT really comes up with its wisdom by scraping what we put out there with all of our words into the cyber universe. And it scrapes it and collates it and spits back to us what we supposedly think. Now, if we use this as a diagnostic, then the current wisdom about Tim Walz is wrong. And here's why. Tim Walz is characterized, at least in what you read, as being the more substantial but less stylistic of the two VP candidates, meaning he knows what he's talking about, but he's not the most charismatic speaker in the world. And I am of the opinion that this is just wrong. It's not what the tape shows. So let's take a look at why I say this. I'm going to show you a couple of different things, and let's look at the first one, which is so telling. Now, if you see my eyes looking up, it's because I'm, again, looking at my computer screen as I'm going to play you some clips. This is from a rally in Detroit. Not the most big ticket or most highly covered event that he's done, but I want you to watch the entire clip. It's almost a minute, actually, but we're going to watch it with the sound down. Here's why. I just want you to watch how he uses his body. It's remarkable, actually. Tremendous amounts of variety, and I will kind of narrate this as we go. So let's take a look at this. Here we go. Now watch. All right, he's going to take the stage. Look at how wide open his mouth is, as a simple example. Hands up in the air in this sort of V, clapping. Now he takes a bow to that side of the audience. Comes over here, he enunciates so loudly you can see the word. He says, wow. Clapping again to the audience, taking his time, egging them on, looking all over throughout the room, again with a wow, so clearly enunciated. A third time that you could actually understand. He wipes his brow, by the way. He's so relaxed, he just wipes his brow. Now, a gesture to his heart. All of a sudden, empathy. He points to the audience. So relaxed he can actually dry a bead of sweat off his forehead. Look how freely his hands are moving. Back to the clapping again. And now look at how dynamic and decisive his enunciation is. He cracks a joke. He turns to the right. His hands are different than they were before, gesturing in a different way. Again, look at the enunciation. Look how wide open and dynamic his movement is. New gesture there. Again, now he can scratches his nose casually. He's so relaxed up there. Physically expressive and physically varied and physically dynamic. New gesture. And again, a new gesture again, topping his hands out to the side. Now, why am I harping on his physicality? Here's why. Your voice is your body. A great voice teacher I studied with one time named Ralph Zito taught me that mantra. I'll show it to you quickly. You ready? Your voice is your body. Your voice is your body. If you move your body in varied and expressive ways, you can trust that your voice is going to sound varied and expressive as well. And in these situations, Tim Walz is an incredibly expressive speaker. But he's not just enthusiastic or extroverted all the time. He modulates quickly. Big, small, loud, quiet, over and over. He's actually a very captivating speaker in certain situations. To prove this point, now let's watch some of the clip with the sound up. You can ignore the Bruce Springsteen for a moment.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. A big thank you to Adam. I think we can all agree our future's pretty bright. Thank you, Adam. And hello, Michigan. We Minnesotans, you probably know this. We're a stoic people of few words. but holy hell, can you throw a party here in Michigan? So, wow. I want to take a moment to acknowledge a few friends, folks that I've gotten to know, and let's be very clear.
Do you hear how much vocal variety he uses in his voice? And even with the gently subversive phrase, holy hell, to create some rapport and be gently transgressive, but not use such a bad cuss word as to actually alienate people. Now, you might look at that rally and think like, okay, well, that was kind of a lower stakes situation. No, he is this physically comfortable in high stakes ones as well. As an example, at his DNC acceptance speech, which I can imagine he might have had a little bit of nerves for. Take a look at this clip. Again, sound turned down. I just want you to notice how free he is physically, even talking and gesturing to Kamala Harris behind him as he's receiving the adoration of the audience about his title of coach. Here it is. Look at how wide open his mouth is, how he gestures back to her, looks all the way around, turns his back practically to the audience and the microphone to look at her, clapping, smiling, physically free the entire time. So this might sound like I'm, giving a love song or something to Tim Walz. Yes, he is a very skilled communicator, and Republicans underestimate him at their peril. Here's the challenge, though. When he brings that all down to a more constrained kind of communication situation, like a televised debate, there's a risk. And the risk is that all of a sudden, all that expressiveness and dynamism goes away, and interestingly, he becomes much less precise. Actually, more likely to stumble. And I want to show you a couple examples of this. The first is actually the initial CNN interview that he did with Dana Bash when the first time that the joint ticket was being interviewed. And I want to show you his first answer. It's only about 36 seconds long. Note, this is an answer the team should have been completely ready for. They knew this was going to come up. It was the item in the media at that moment of the ways to kind of try to poke at him. And yet, in that 36-second answer, he makes no less than about 12 non-fluencies. A non-fluency is a stumble on a word or a sound, a repetition of a word or a phrase, a mistake. They're tiny, so you have to listen closely, but see if you can actually keep track as we go. Now, you can do the math here. In a 36-second clip, that means one of these non-fluencies every 3 seconds or so. It's fascinating. Take a look.
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And
I'm not picking on the answer or the content of the answer at all. I'm simply pointing out that is different than how he often comes across. And if you don't believe me, let's watch a very similar sample set, which is his first answer out of the gate again, but this time on a podcast with Ezra Klein. Notice in this answer, which is more than 40 seconds long, he has 3 non-fluencies total. One one and one repeated word, that. Look at that ratio. We're talking one every almost 15 seconds. Dramatically different. So it's not as though he can't be precise in those situations. In fact, maybe was he trying to gently not set quite as high a bar as a communicator as Kamala Harris, so he didn't want to in any way overshadow what she was doing? I don't know. What I do know is that the dynamic, precise, fluid, and free communicator that we see all the time when he's on the campaign trail could falter in a smaller scope debate situation in which the camera is tighter. If I were on his preparation team, there's probably a good chance that what they're trying to do is unleash that Tim Walz from the campaign trail in terms of precision, in terms of dynamism, and in terms of expressivity, but doing it with a smaller camera lens, because that's what you will have. So Let's take a look at him talking to Ezra Klein now.
A Minnesota mantra too. I think that's, I would be remiss if I didn't. Those that came before Paul Wellstone talked about that a lot. The idea that why you're in this is to collectively try and make sure that you can improve folks' lives, that you can give them opportunities. And I think too often we get into this, that there's a cautiousness around, I got elected. If I get a little too aggressive on certain things, it'll make it more difficult to get reelected, which the whole point is you got there to, whether it was school lunches or paid family medical leave, you're there now. Why don't you get that done now? And I made the case that if we can get everything done in one session, then I won't have to do this again and I can move on. And I think that attitude inspires people to get going, to find solutions and to move. So not to get reelected, it's to get the work done. If you can get it done fast, do it.
You see that precision? Almost no non-fluencies whatsoever. So in this debate, watch. Is he able to keep that same level of precision that he typically has and bring some of the expressivity that he shows so easily on the campaign trail? We will see.